Hey everybody, welcome back again. And today I've got another new figure to take a look at an unboxing and initial impressions. And that is Magic Square's MS-05 Night Tracer. And this is their masterpiece version of a G1 Onslaught, which, if everybody will recall, was the leader of the Combaticons and combined into Bruticus. We've already gotten their Brawl and Swindle in the forms of Heavy Gunner and Munitioner as the two lower limbs of Bruticus. So at this point, we're still waiting for Vortex, and the name of the helicopter escapes me right now, but still waiting on those two figures. But this is the third one, really highly anticipated for me at least. This was always one of my favorite characters as a kid when I collected. So let's go ahead and get into this guy. First of all, let's just kind of take a look at the box. So the box is quite a bit bigger than the other two. And just looking at, in terms of a comparison, let's look at the Heavy Gunner box in comparison. So you can see it's quite a bit larger. And if we also take a look at the Munitioner box in comparison to Night Tracer's box. So quite a bit bigger overall. So let's get into it. So let's put these guys to the side. So looking right off the bat, we've got the Onslaught figure himself and his turret, and obviously some combiner parts. This looks to be the chest plate of Bruticus. Really nice. I don't see a whole lot of, I guess he probably pegs in through here. But very plain looking, that cartoon aesthetic. And then we've got his gun, which is really nicely done. The handle flips down. Looks like we've got some sprue marks there when they cut the pieces off the sprue to assemble it. And then we've got his turret. This is actually a good bit heavier than I had anticipated it being, but again, it's really nicely painted. I do see a few little scuffs here and there on the paint. And then I know once we get the figure out, so one thing I'm going to point out here, so there's a little bit of flash on this, and for you, those of you that are model builders like I was years and years ago, so flash is where a little bit of that hot plastic runs in between the seams of the mold when they inject the plastic in there. For model makers, usually it's pretty common. I would not really expect to see this on a figure of this quality, but I'll have to use an X-Acto knife and kind of shave that off, and I'm not sure if you can see it there, but it is there. So that's a little, I don't think I've ever had that happen with any of the Magic Square figures. But there is a little bit of flashing in multiple places on this figure, or on this turret at least. So let's set that to the side. And then for the main attraction, we've got the figure himself. So if we look at him, again, I've really been anticipating this figure just because I was so impressed with the first two in the series. They were actually the first two Magic Square figures I've ever owned, and I was really happy with them. The articulation on them is fantastic. The paint quality I thought was really good. It was just overall, I was very, very impressed, having never had one of these figures before. But just looking at him, he's really nicely done. It looks like all of this is painted, very nicely done. I've seen a couple of reviews online already where he had some scuffing on the paint on the chest. I do see a little bit of orange peel on the chest, but you have to look at it just at just the right angle to be able to see very, very light blemishes. But I'm not seeing any overspray. Nicely done camouflage on the back. It's actually textured a little bit. So really, really good looking. And I know for this figure, there's a little bit of prep work that we have to do in order to get his backpack on. So if you'll notice on the backpack, there's this bit right here that's got some T's on it, and those are going to slot in to the area right above his ab crunch, and they will slot into that rail, if you can see. And then there are some additional L-shaped brackets here that need to go into the corresponding holes on the turret, and then the sides of the turret should close around those to keep that held in. So you may have to move it up and adjust it a little bit, but it snaps right in. It's very solid, no movement on it. But yeah, looking at him as a figure, really nice looking. Let's take a look at the articulation. So in the head, what is kind of standard with these figures now, there's a really nice articulation in the head, so it turns all the way around, can look all the way up, so you can kind of really get some dynamic poses of him, you know, crouched down with his head looking forward instead of looking down. On the arms, we get all the way around. There's not a ratchet there, it's just a friction joint. So we get some up. I can't really tell. I don't think he bends at this joint here. Oh, he does. Okay, so actually there is some up and down on the shoulder. It is a really tight ratchet, but the ratchet is there, and it looks like my face just fell off. So let's put that back on. So yeah, there is some up and down in the shoulder here, and it is on a ratchet. So we've got swivel at the elbow, and we've got a greater than 90-degree bend at the elbow. So that's really nice. So the fingers look very similar to what we got with Brawl. So individually articulated fingers. Thumb is on a ball joint. We get a pin on each finger. The wrist can bend at a 90-degree angle perpendicular to the forearm. I really like what they do with their hand articulation. We get a little bit of splay on the fingers. Looking at, we do have a hip swivel, and then we've got an ab crunch that's typical of the other Magic Square figures that we've gotten. And then looking at his hips, so if this is anything like the other figures that we've gotten, this side skirt will need to come out a little bit, and that whole front skirt goes with him. So we get a little bit more than 90 degrees up kick. And at the knee, we get a really nice, I mean, it folds almost entirely back on itself. So it's a really, really nice knee bend. And then we do get a hip swivel or thigh swivel, thigh rotation. And one thing you have to watch out, just similar to the other figures, is when you bend his leg back down, make sure you get this front skirt back out, because it does rotate independently of the hip. And then looking at the feet, we've got ankle tilt, pretty extreme ankle tilt. You can actually swing this down a little bit and maybe get some additional posability out of there. The toe is up, and we don't get any down. But yeah, I mean, overall, again, really nice articulation, on par with the other figures. You do get a little bit of bend here, but I would imagine this is part of the transformation and not really intended to be articulation. But looking at this guy, I mean, he's really nice. I was really excited to get this figure. Let's take a look at him side by side with Brawl or their Heavy Gunner. So you can see he's significantly larger than that figure, and then even larger in comparison with their Munitioner or Swindle. So these guys look great together. It's a very heavy tune aesthetic. Probably Munitioner is my least favorite of the three. This guy has got to be my new favorite. I was really impressed with Heavy Gunner. That was actually the very first Magic Square figure I got. And then I thought, you know, why not? I'll get the other one. But his articulation was just fantastic. I was not disappointed with the Munitioner in terms of the articulation, and certainly not disappointed with Onslaught in terms of the articulation. So overall, Magic Square's done a really good job with these figures, and this one especially. Super pleased with it, and I can't wait to see what they do with the remaining of the figures and how all this is going to come together in terms of the combiner. I would imagine that, given that Munitioner and Heavy Gunner came with the leg mounts for Bruticus, I would imagine that the remaining two figures will probably come with the hands or maybe the thighs of the Bruticus combiner. I've seen a couple videos already of the combiner, or of Onslaught in combined mode, and he doesn't look quite big enough and have all of the dangly parts hanging off of him to support connections to the legs yet. So kind of curious to see what they do with that, if it'll be a separate set by itself, or if those remaining parts will come with the last two arm combiners. So again, a figure I would highly recommend. Very pleased with it, very happy. Can't wait to get this guy set up and get some action poses, and I'll post a couple of shorts with him in action. So again, I really appreciate you guys watching. If you like this content, please like it, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll keep doing these. Thank you so much.